Okay, I should be live right now. If I am, please let me know in the chat. It's been a while since I've been live on YouTube, so happy to be back. How are you guys doing? Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Marvel's Avengers beta. So yeah, I'm testing the beta of this game. Give me 1 second, I'm going to share this on the usual platforms. In the meantime, here's part of the options menu. It's very similar to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, so you're probably going to find it very familiar. Alright. Okay, probably going to share it using my phone since I don't have Twitter in this computer. Beautiful. Hola, ¿cómo andan? Hello guys, how's it going? Long time no see, long time no stream. Now I have a 60 frames per second webcam, so I'm more fluid on the screen. Pretty beautiful, I would say, to have a smoother image, at least in my opinion. Alright, share it on Twitter. And I'm good to go. So yeah, let's start with the RX 570. As you can see on screen, that's what I'm using. And I'm using a Ryzen 5 3600 since I'm now using one CPU. So I'm doing right now 1080p, no dynamic resolution. There's an option for 30 or 60 frames per second on dynamic resolution. Good to have, at least in my opinion. The fidelity effects, which is the contrast, sharpening contrast, something to do with contrast and dynamic sharpening on the AMD side. So it will sharpen the image dynamically depending on the contrast. So it's a decent performance hit, but the visual difference is a little noticeable, I would say. And then we got all the usual options we got on the Tomb Raider games, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, for example. So the ones I saw that made the biggest difference were shadows, level of detail, ambient occlusion, and then reflections and volumetric lighting together were the ones that gave me a few extra frames. I'm going to start on medium settings. So medium settings. No motion blur, because in this game it looks pretty bad, I have to say. It makes me dizzy. So yeah, medium settings, high shadows, and anisotropic filtering maxed out. So let me change the status to 1080p medium, which is the settings I'm using. Medium. And after we get the best settings, we're going to go back and change the graphics card. So that should be the plan at the moment. Soy uruguayo, no argentino, pero anduviste cerca. I'm going to be using a controller to play this, so be aware of that. But yeah. ¿Cuál es mi idioma nativo? Español. ¿Qué tarjeta uso en mi tiempo libre? Uso la GTX 1650 Super, que es la más potente que tengo ahora. Alright guys, so in this place we're getting basically 50 frames. It's going to get significantly worse than this. Remember, I'm using medium settings on 1080p. But when there's a lot of effects on screen, it gets very GPU demanding. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed about that, but I was expecting it, seeing the performance on the consoles. So yeah. No, I no longer have the 1660 Super, so I won't be doing that one. But I'll be able to tell you more or less what to expect if you are getting that graphics card. It should be basically this, but like 15 to 20 FPS more. So yeah, probably medium settings, 60 frames is something I would expect on the 1660 Super in the worst case scenarios. Now it's loading the level. Is this 1050 Ti? No, this is RX 570. After this one I'm doing 1050 Ti, and after that one I'm doing the 1650 Super. Or maybe the other way around, we'll see. But at the moment I'm doing the RX 570. Yeah, well, sub 60 isn't great. You're going to see now how the performance is once stuff hits the fan. It's going to get pretty crazy on the frame rate. I mean, this is nothing compared to what we're going to get the game to, when there's a lot going on screen. Okay, so this is more of an open area in comparison to the first levels. This is after the prologue and all that. I don't know why it looks so slow. Maybe it's a thing with OBS. Give me 1 second, guys. It's looking a little slow for some reason. Maybe it's the capture card. But yeah, it's not going to look good, basically. It's alright. Okay, it should be fine now. Yeah, it seems to be better. So as I was saying, this is nothing compared to when you're fighting and there's a lot of effects on screen. It's going to get super crazy demanding, so be ready. This is the best part, basically. It's going to be much worse than this, I assure you. What is my main PC? Ryzen 5 3600 and 1650 Super. Basically, that's what I'm using right now. I don't need higher end components. I can work just fine with that. Other things to mention, the RAM usage went over 10 gigabytes in some parts. So that's something to keep in mind. More than 8 gigabytes of RAM seems to be recommended. But yeah. Depots, I don't know what this is, I don't care. Let me keep playing. This is not even the worst part on this beta. Apparently in the city area, there's a battle in the city. It's going to get much worse than this. So yeah, I'm just expecting the worst at the moment. This is the 4 gigabyte variant. If I use the 8 gigabyte variant, I should be able to put ultra textures, but the numbers should be exactly the same. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. It should be totally fine. But yeah, hopefully there's something to fight. Okay, there is. Come on. Anyways, I'm going to keep going. Of course, cinematics, something. But yeah. Let's skip this. Alright, you can see now, I'm going to do an attack. And many effects on screen, it drops into the 30s, so low 50s is not bad, in my opinion, in comparison to this. It's going to get pretty crazy here with the amount of effects. But I do like the destruction effects that we get to see when we're using the Hulk. But remember, this is medium settings, so this is super demanding on the GPU. And on the CPU as well. I saw some spikes to 100% on a Ryzen 5 3600, which is what I'm using right now. So yeah, not looking good, since the game is releasing next month. I think in less than a month the game is releasing. So I don't see how they could improve it significantly. It's probably going to need a lot of work. But hey, at least we can play it early and see what to expect. At the moment, on a 570 you can do 1080p medium on the medium preset, high textures, and isotropic filtering 16 times at basically 30 frames in the worst case scenario, which is a lot of effects on screen. But yeah, pretty terrible at the game at the moment. I'm not used to the controls yet. But again, I do like how it looks. I think it could look better, but the interaction with environments, I think it's pronounced, is pretty decent. I do like the destruction effects that we get. But yeah, the performance is very variable. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So yeah. Yeah, 30 to 40 on combat, basically 28 to 40 on combat. But it can be even worse than this in the city level. There are more reflections, there's more enemies, more effects on screen. And there are some bugs as well, as you can see, that thing floating in the air. Sometimes it happens. But yeah, I'm trying to get to the city part, which should be even more demanding. And I failed because I didn't protect the the station. So yeah. Oh, thank you, Los Mavericks, for the, I think it's $5 donation. Thank you so much, man. He says he bought a 1050 Ti thanks to my videos in 2017, and he's been watching ever since. Thank you so much, man. Highly appreciate it. Thanks for the donation. Anyways, let's keep going. Thank you again for the donation. Cannot stress that enough. But yeah, it helps me keep going. So yeah, very helpful. Come on. And I hope you're enjoying your 1050 Ti. It's still usable in 2020, which is kinda crazy. I was expecting it to die sooner, to be honest. But yeah. Alright. Please don't destroy this place. Okay, I think I wait for them to get here, and I use the big slab. This one. I don't know if it's called a big slab, but I think it's a decent name for it. Sorry if I'm not reading the chat. I'm trying to focus. I'm not very familiar with the controls in this game. I played like an hour, I think. Oh, one other thing. This beta has a ton of content. I'm pretty surprised about that. I've been playing more than an hour, and it seems to have 5 more levels to play. So if you want to try it out, I recommend you do so. It's for the weekend only. But yeah. Come on.
I'm working on clearing up the signal.
But yeah, at the moment, let's try 720p. Let's see if in combat we can get at least 60 frames by lowering the resolution. That would be nice. It seems we got to the cap of the frame rate on 1080p. So now we're doing 720p, but on the medium settings. So the same settings as before, but now 720p. We're trying to get 60 frames per second. Wish me luck. It will be very CPU intensive. Okay. So on 720p medium settings, we are getting drops into the 40s when stuff is happening on screen. Okay. I was expecting worse, considering the numbers on 1080p. But yeah, very GPU demanding and CPU demanding as well. It's using basically half the CPU when I'm attacking. Not looking good for quad-core CPUs, I have to say. Whoa, the game crashed. Beautiful. So I was saying that the game is very CPU intensive and GPU intensive, but it suddenly crashed, so nice. It also needs to be fixed. Anyways, so let me show you the menu. This is basically like Shadow of the Tomb Raider. We got this menu. I'm going to do 720p medium settings, which is with high textures. You can even turn off shadows, but I don't recommend it. The game looks significantly worse. But yeah, this is basically medium settings. Let's give it another try. Hopefully it doesn't crash this time around. But yeah, low settings looks very bad in comparison to medium or high. Medium seems to be like the sweet spot. You get decent performance and good visuals. So yeah, I think medium is the setting that everybody should use, but crank up textures to high if you have 4 GB of VRAM. You cannot use textures on ultra if your GPU has 4 GB. The game will just tell you, no, use high textures, you don't have enough VRAM. So yeah, let's give it a second try. Hopefully now it doesn't crash. But yeah, that was pretty funny. I was just attacking and suddenly the game crashed, so hopefully I don't have to start the level all over again. But if I do have to, well, we're going to do 900p, try to crank up the settings at 720 and then change for the 1050 Ti. Yeah, I think that the game, yeah, I have to start the level all over again. So I'm probably not going to get to the city area at this point in time. So what I'm going to do is play a little at 720p, trying to see if 60 frames is doable, basically. It doesn't seem to be. It seems to be dropping into the 40s. But yeah, let me select very quickly the Hulk. I'm better with that one. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm now going to be doing 720, trying to aim for 60, then crank up the settings to get maybe higher ultra settings, then 1050 Ti, then 1650 Super, and we'll be done. This live stream won't be very long, it will be like an hour, so be prepared. I'm going to rush, basically. But yeah, is i7 4790K high usage in this game? Well, it's 4 cores, 8 threads. I got the CPU maxed out a couple times when there was a lot of destruction. It's probably going to get maxed out, but I expect it to be enough for 60 frames per second, if your GPU can handle it. If you're aiming for 30 frames, nothing to worry about. But the game has an issue where it maxes out the CPU, especially on the first level, in the Avengers day. There's a lot of destruction happening. Well, I expect it to be maxed out, 4-core 8-thread CPU, since this one, a 6-core 12-thread CPU, was maxed out. But yeah, it should be enough. Por lo que veo, el juego no está tan optimizado como pensaba. Se podrá en Ultra 60 1080p y es muy difícil. O sea, yo diría que una 1660 o una 2060 debería poder, pero en esta gráfica ni de casualidad. Sí, debería dar, Jesús, debería dar. Si no es genérica. So, as I was saying in Spanish, someone was saying that maybe we can do 1080p 60 on ultra settings. Not a chance at all. When fighting this, the graphics card gets maxed out. I expect it to drop into the 40s on 720p medium. On 1080p medium we were getting 30 frames, so maybe if you want to be over 30 all the time, but want better visuals than medium, probably 900p is a good trade-off. But yeah, I cannot destroy this, so let's continue. Juraste por tu vida que no hablaba español. Yo hablo español, sí. Estoy ofendido ahora. Well, test Project Cards 3. Yeah, I plan on testing it. That's one that I'm very excited about. It doesn't seem to be as... It's more arcadey, which I'm more into. Project Cards 2 was more of a mix between simulation and arcade, so I didn't like that very much. But the third one seems to be more of going to the arcadey part, so maybe it's more appealing to me, but we'll see. So as I predicted, it was going to drop into the 40s, so yeah. To get 60 frames, you're probably going to need 720p low settings. Low settings to get 60 even on the fighting parts with a lot of effects. So yeah, as I was expecting, it's pretty demanding on the GPU and CPU side. But I have to say the game does look better than I was expecting. In the videos this game doesn't look as good. It uses a very strong TAA post-processing solution. It looks very soft. This on the videos really destroys the footage. But the game does look good, at least in my opinion. But the performance, yeah, leaves a lot to be desired. But at least the game has good visuals, that's what I'm trying to say. And the destruction when I'm attacking, I think is very decent. The interactability or interactivity with the environments. But yeah, I wish it ran better. That's what I'm trying to say too. And there's some bugs, as you can see. But that's alright, it can happen. I don't expect them to fix this in a month. The game is releasing next month, so how they are going to improve it significantly from now to then, I don't know. But it's good that we know this before the game... What the heck? Mission failed. Why? Why? I don't get it. Anyways, let's crank up the settings. We can see that we can get 40 to 60 on 720p medium. Let's try ultra settings to see if we can get over 30 frames per second. And then we'll see what we do. But it's a good time to change the settings. As you can see, 720p. Oh, also I forgot to mention there's a dynamic resolution. is quite a bit too strong. I mean, if you're getting 50 frames, it's going to drop a lot of resolution to get to 60. It works, but I would recommend it if you are playing on 1080p. On 720p, it makes the game look very, very blurry because it drops it drops a lot below 720p. So yeah, let's go for very high settings. So we put 720p very high because Ultra is not available on 4GB GPUs, which is unfortunate. And if you missed it, at 1080p medium settings I was getting 30 frames per second. So consider that the best case scenario on the resolution. So yeah, I'm using very high settings now because Ultra is not going to allow me to change it. It just gets stuck on high. So yeah. So now we are on very high, and instead of getting 55, we're getting 48. So we'll see once the fight begins, but it doesn't seem to have changed that much from the medium preset to the very high preset on the performance department. I mean, we lost like 10 frames per second, it seems. Let's get to a fight. ¿Preparaste gráficos altos? Estoy en eso. Justo en eso estoy ahora. Alright, let me skip. Okay, never mind. It's like 15 to 20 FPS slower. Medium versus very high settings. Let me see. Keep the area secure. Okay, gotcha. That was the objective. I failed before, so let's try to do a better job now. Now on very high settings, instead of dropping into the mid-40s on the fighting, we're getting into the mid-30s. So if you want to get better visuals, at least at 720p you can crank it up. So yeah, I guess that's something that you could do. Eventually I'm going to try 1080p again on more than medium settings, but I expect it to drop into the mid-20s if I use this on 1080p. So yeah, we'll see. But at the moment, it is what it is. Probably if you want to get very high settings at 30 frames, 900p is necessary. So we're going to try 900p as well. But I have to be quick as well because I have to test other GPUs. So yeah. Oh, come on. That's not fair. Yeah, it seems that at 720p very high is just fine. Let's switch to 900p. So we're doing now a 900p at very high settings. Again, you cannot crank up textures higher than this because the game will tell you, hey, you don't have enough VRAM for that. Anyways, so this is now 900p very high. Whoa, there we go. So 900p very high, we are now in the mid-30s. Hopefully that changes and we drop below 30 a little bit. And I'm going to lose the mission right now. I might lower the difficulty just to be able to progress. That's very embarrassing. Okay. When some effects happen, it drops into the upper 20s, no big deal. There's so many of them. Oh please, don't die now. Yep, I got distracted. Anyways, please revive me. But yeah, probably high settings makes more sense in this case. Let me change that very quickly. So we drop from very high settings to high settings. That's probably okay. It jumped into the upper 30s. So probably on 900p what you want to do is high settings. So we keep it on high and let's play a little bit more but on high settings. Oh, now the awful motion blur is enabled. Ugh, that looks terrible. I'll disable it very quickly. Sorry about that, guys. The motion blur in this game is not good, at least in my opinion. Super distracting. Makes everything too blurry. Alright.
I've almost taken control of the security node. Just a bit longer.
Alright, come on. Please don't die. Again. Yeah, it seems that the best settings right now are for the 570. Okay, they destroyed the place. So, as I was saying, I think that the best settings so far for the 570 are 900p high, since you're getting over 30 frames per second on the fighting parts. Then on 720p, probably medium settings if you want 45 to 60, and on 1080p, medium settings to get over 30 frames per second. I'm talking about the worst case scenarios, when you're fighting and there's a lot of effects on screen. That's my worst case scenario type of deal. But yeah, my game is also crashing quite a bit. It crashed 3 times in 2 hours. So yeah, that's not good. Hopefully they fix that soon. But yeah, the game crashes, and when it crashes I have to start this mission all over again, since it's a war table mission. They need to work on that. It's pretty terrible, because I have to start this mission all over again. There are no checkpoints. No checkpoints in these war table missions. And sometimes I even get disconnected from the server and it kicks me back to the main menu. That's not good, at least in my opinion. But yeah. Alright. Not that bad. I'm getting a little bit better at the game. I didn't know I have to stay standing on this place like it was capture the flag. But I mean, a 900p 30 is not that bad if you're using a controller. If you're using mouse and keyboard, 30 frames on this game doesn't feel good. On a controller it's pretty good at 30 frames. I just hope that in the city area where there's more enemies than this and more fighting, that it's not going to drop below 30. That would be very terrible. Oh, one other thing I forgot to talk about. Sometimes when I launch the game again, the frame rate is cut in half for no reason whatsoever. Well, in order to fix that, just select Ultra Settings, then go back to the setting that you selected, and the game fixes the frame rate. It's pretty weird. Not sure what's up with that, but sometimes the game just bugs out, the frame rate is bad, and you're just getting half the frame rate. So changing the presets from very high to medium again just fixes it. Pretty weird bug, but keep that in mind if you want to play the beta. If the numbers are weird, try changing presets and it will eventually stabilize itself. But yeah, okay, almost got it. Come on, get out. But yeah, I think those are the best settings so far. Medium for 1080p, high for 900p, and medium for 720p if you want smoother than 40 frames. But yeah. Okay. That freezing ability is such BS. Okay, I'm now going to finish this mission and then swap to the 1050 Ti so you guys can see how it runs. I'm not expecting anything good out of the 1050 Ti considering the results on the 570. It's probably going to be low settings, 30 frames per second on 1080p. But we'll see. We're about to find out. Yeah, those shields are BS. But yeah, those slowdowns, I'm not sure if you catch that. Sometimes when there's an effect very close to the camera, it just subtly drops like 7 FPS and it feels very laggy. Hopefully they iron that out, but it happens on the consoles as well, according to some videos I saw. So I'm not very hopeful on that one. Yeah, it's very clear that they focus on the next-gen consoles
Shield bunker.
due to the performance, but the visuals are pretty good. But considering how Shadow of the Tomb Raider ran, I wasn't expecting very good numbers. That doesn't mean that they don't have to work on the performance, but I wasn't expecting a lot of good stuff after those Tomb Raider games and after the Digital Foundry analysis on the consoles. So yeah, let me check where I have to go. Locate the shield facility. Not this way. Okay, this way. Yeah, I'm just going to change GPUs now. It's going to make it faster because I'm already 30 minutes in. This is not going to last forever, so I need to swap GPUs. If I advance in the game, I advance. If I don't, I just don't. So give me 1 second, guys. Going to swap to the 1050 Ti. GTX 1050 Ti. So if you want to see how the 570 runs the game, you can rewind. The live stream should be able to rewind. 1 second, going to swap GPUs. Alright, I'm back, guys. I just plugged in the 1050 Ti. The 570 is already on the table. As you can see, it's right here. The Aorus dual fan version. So let's put it away since we already tested that. And let's hide my desktop because I'm going to update some drivers. 1 second. It will be very quick on the NVIDIA cards. I'm very fast installing drivers. On the AMD cards, it fails sometimes. That's why I do the AMD card first. No hits to AMD, but sometimes their drivers mess it up, at least for me. Alright, it's up and running. Beautiful. Okay, let's show you again the desktop. I have a Crysis desktop wallpaper. So let's jump right into Avengers. I'm so excited for Crysis Remastered. I thought it was going to release today, but no, they just announced that it's coming next month, so expect a live stream on day 1, testing Crysis Remastered. Do you keep Windows up to date all the time? Yes, I do. I keep it up to date because sometimes some Microsoft games require the latest version of Windows. So anyways, we're going to do let's try low settings with high textures because we have enough VRAM for that. So these are the settings I'm going to try, which translates to low settings on the presets. So it's going to be 1080p, low settings. There's a lowest option as well, but I'm going to leave that as a last resort. So let's try it out like this. Medium settings, 1080p, TAA, and let's jump right in. Wish me luck. It's going to be rough. If the 570 had issues on medium settings to maintain 30, I'm not having high hopes for this one. But if it runs better on NVIDIA cards, there might be some hope. We'll see. ¿Crees que corra parecido con i3? No, la verdad que no. Yo creo que va a tener muchos más tirones, pero debería llegar arriba de 30 bastante fácil. O sea, si quieres 30 FPS debería irlo más bien. I was saying in Spanish, somebody asked me if on an i3 9100F it was going to be the same. No, it's not. This game has huge spikes on the CPU usage, which, I mean, if it's maxing out a Ryzen 5 3600 and I'm getting some stutters in the first levels, I'm not having high hopes for quad cores. If you're aiming for 30 frames per second, it should be alright, but if you're aiming for 60, I don't think 4 cores will cut it. So keep that in mind. Anyways, so okay, already I'm not even in a mission and I'm already below 30 frames per second, so this is not looking good. Not looking good. Let's give it a try. If I need to lower the settings further, I'm going to do it, but it's not looking good. We'll see. Once the fighting starts, that's the trial by fire on the GPU. So wish me luck. This is 1080p low settings, high textures, basically. So we're going to select the Hulk and we'll launch it. Let's go. De Ninja, mira, el juego tiene unos tirones raros de FPS. Parece un tema de CPU. Asegúrate que la RAM esté en dual channel y probá mover los presets de juego de muy alto a medio, que a veces se buguea el juego, no sé qué pasa con los gráficos. Como que el rendimiento no está correcto, es extraño. Anyways, so I was saying in Spanish, if you're having issues with the performance, try changing presets in real time while the game is running. Sometimes that helps out. In this game, sometimes the graphics, the performance backs out and I have to reset the presets. I'm going to try that in a second. But yeah, not high hopes for this. I'm already getting 30 and I'm not even fighting. So yeah, I'm going to lower the settings to the lowest, except in textures once again. So we're going to put the lowest settings and we're cranking up the textures. Hang on a minute. Where are the textures? Okay, we're going to select anisotropic filtering and high textures. And the rest is on the lowest settings, so wish me luck. I'm going to change the status to 1080p lowest settings, which is unfortunate, but hey, at least we can play the game on 1080p. So okay, now that I'm in the lowest settings, I'm over 30 frames per second, so hopefully it doesn't drop below that, but we'll see. It looks significantly worse on the lowest settings because we have no shadows. As you can see, it's just floating. So yeah, let's keep it going. Yeah, now it's dropping below 30 frames even on the lowest settings, so probably dynamic resolution would be a better idea if you want to keep the lowest settings, which sounds kind of weird. But it's a game that is focused on next generation. Still, I'm not saying this is good. They still need to work on the frame rates, in my opinion. This is no high-end GPU. But again, at least I would have wanted low settings 1080p 30 frames. That was my wish. But hey, it is what it is. Even on PS4 runs bad, it drops to the 10 to 15 FPS with dynamic resolution. Well, yeah, that's true. I also saw that the game was very CPU intensive in some sections, so the consoles are probably getting limited by the CPU as well. So yeah, I mean, at least this time around it makes sense that it's not running well on PC, because it runs bad on consoles as well. If it was running perfectly fine on consoles and bad on PC, I would be pissed. But yeah, at least it runs bad on both, so they need to work on the game itself. And as you can see, even on the lowest settings, I'm getting 20 frames per second. So yeah, 1080p is not going to cut it. I'm going to try to jump from preset to preset. Let's try high, then back to the lowest. Yeah, it improved a couple frames. Let's see if that stays the same way. Okay, that worked. Never mind, it dropped into the low 20s again. Yeah, 1080p, it's a no-go on the 1050 Ti on this one. Let's do 900p, 60 Hz, thank you very much. And we're going to do, well, it dropped again to 1080p. Anyways, lower settings, 16 times anisotropic filtering, high textures. So lower settings but with good textures, and we're doing 900p at 60 Hz. Alright, we apply the settings. Wish me luck. This is going to be a tough one. Okay, for some reason it's not showing up in my screen. So let me try very quickly to see if I can get an image. Okay, I'm on windowed mode. Yeah, that's not what I wanted. Okay, one more try. Now it's on a tiny window. Beautiful. I love when games do not cooperate. For some reason it thinks that I'm at 240 Hz. That's not true. I am not. Yeah, sometimes 900p is messed up on this capture card. One last try. Yeah, on the 570 it didn't happen, this problem, so okay. Okay, good. We're on 900p lower settings. So wish me luck. So just to play around a bit, we put high, we put lowest, then we go down here, we select trilinear anisotropic, and high textures. So this is now 900p lower settings. Okay, now at least we're at the low 30s when we are fighting, and the game crashed. Whoa, beautiful. Okay, let's give it another try. Now at least we have the settings nailed down. Probably going to be 720p medium. So this is 900p lower settings with high textures, and let's go back in. I hate when games crash. I have to start all over again, but yeah, this is a mess at the moment. It crashed 6 times in 2 hours. That's not good. It's a beta, I know it's a beta, but the game is releasing in less than a month, in less than 30 days, so I'm blindly hoping that they're going to fix this before release, but I'm not sure they will. We'll see. Wish me luck. Even the super version will struggle. Yeah, it's probably going to be similar to the 570, at least in my opinion. I don't have a lot of time. I have like 15 minutes left, so let's make it good use of my time and try this mission again. How do you manage to speak English so well? Well, thank you for that compliment. I just like to practice. I went to English classes most of my life, and I like speaking in English on my free time. And even the memes I look up on the internet are in English. So yeah, it's all practice, and I speak English basically daily nowadays. So yeah. Not sure if there's something happening in the background in my house. But yeah, as I was saying, I just practice a lot. I speak daily. It's not perfect. It still needs a lot of work, my English. But right now, it is what it is. Thank you, D-Star, for the 100. I'm not sure if those are in the rupees. If those are not in the rupees, I'm so sorry. I don't know that currency. What is better, AMD or Intel for streaming? And if AMD, what model should I buy? Well, nowadays it depends. I will probably go AMD for streaming, since for a very cheap price you can get a Ryzen 5 1600 or 1600 AF or a 2600. 6 cores, 12 threads. You don't need a very expensive motherboard. You can get a B550 or a B450, a B350. Those are all compatible with the 6 core, 12 threads AMD CPUs at the moment. So value-wise, I think those are the ones that are worth it. The 1600, 1600 AF, 2600, you should be able to get them used very cheap as well. But make sure to have RAM on dual channel and at more than 2400 MHz, maybe 2666. And I think in my opinion, you have a good amount of cores. It should be enough to stream and play at the same time. But I would recommend to have an NVIDIA GPU, so you can use the NVIDIA encoder on OBS. That will lower the CPU usage dramatically, so you can focus more of the CPU power on the video game that you're playing. which is what I'm doing right now. The live streaming PC is a 4-core PC with a capture card and a 1650 non-super. But since I'm using the NVIDIA encoder, a quad-core is enough to do the live stream. But it's a separate PC playing the game. This PC is only live streaming, so that's a good plus. If you can do a separate PC to live stream, it will be more expensive, yeah, and you'll need a capture card. But it will be significantly better on the streaming experience. You don't have to think about, oh, this game is going to destroy my CPU if I stream it at the same time. But yeah. Okay, some people are a little annoying. I forgot to put mods, so sorry. Okay, so back to the fighting. As I was saying before, this is 900p lowest settings with high textures. It's enough to play, yeah, it's 30 frames per second, but it drops into the mid-20s. So probably what you should do in this case is keep the settings, first of all, if you want to do 900p, and maybe dynamic resolution. Dynamic resolution 30 frames per second is going to probably be the best choice here, if you don't want to drop the resolution to 720p. Since when it drops below 30, the resolution will drop just when effects happen on screen. And you should be basically fine, the game will be more stable. But I consider this the console experience with worse graphics, which is not good. But it runs bad on the main consoles as well, so I was expecting much better, to be honest, on this graphics card. I mean, it dropped into the low 20s very quickly when effects showed up, so yeah, not exactly perfect. So let's try dynamic resolution. So we're going to put 30 frames, dynamic resolution, and on the status we put dynamic res. So now we're closer to the consoles, basically. This is probably the Xbox One S experience, which is pretty unfortunate. This used to be significantly faster, but hey. Okay, so now we are using dynamic resolution, 900p, lowest settings, and we're getting basically 30 frames per second. Let's see once bigger effects show up what's going to happen. But yeah, it still drops into 29, but we're not dropping into 25, at least, if that's something to be happy about. But the frame times are not that good. And I'm using basically half the CPU when effects show up. So yeah, not looking good. Anyways, yeah, probably if you want higher settings, 720p is probably going to be the way to go. Seeing these numbers, I have no hopes for the 750 Ti. The 750 Ti is going to be probably 720p lowest settings with dynamic resolution. Not a good look. But yeah, let's try now 720p medium. Probably that's not going to work very well. But that's not going to stop me. So yeah. And I got a message. Let me check 1 second, guys. Hopefully the game doesn't crash now. 1 sec. Let's put medium settings. Please don't crash. Please. Why? It crashed. Jesus Christ. Remember, if you're changing settings, do it outside of the game. This game crashes a lot. So we're going to do 720p medium settings. Medium settings. Well, yeah, my keyboard is not working correctly. So yeah, we're going to do 720p medium with high textures. And let's get back into the game. And no motion blur, thank you. 1 second, guys. I have to check my phone. I hate when people interrupt me, but hey, it is what it is. How did you manage to memorize words for English? Well, a long time in my classes we were remembering words, I mean testing out words. The best way to remember words is to first of all write them down and know what they mean. And then the other thing that you can do that was very useful for me was to try to use new words when you're speaking. So practice speaking and try to use the words that you looked up in a sentence. And eventually, after practicing a lot, you're going to get... those words are going to mean something in your mind. It's a weird way to say it, but that's what worked for me. And once you get a good enough vocabulary, that you know a lot of words, you can say different sentences. Probably you should be playing games in English, like I'm doing right now, watching Netflix or whatever in English with subtitles in English. And from that point, it should be a matter of practicing so you get more fluent. But yeah.
Maybe Mr. Stark can find us some more footage of what happened to Cap.
But yeah.
At least I sure hope so.
I'm giving you access to Shield's secure frequency.
Okay, so now we're doing 720p medium settings. This should be the best of both worlds in the preset department. But yeah, sorry, my phone is getting annoying. But yeah, gotta speak it a lot. Yeah, true. That's the key. Try to speak it a lot.
Keep an eye on him, Kamala.
Okay, so we're getting into the mid-40s when nothing's happening, so I'm expecting to drop into the 30s when we are on the fight. So that's pretty good, at least in my opinion. Stop bothering me!
Worry. I will guide you to their signal jammers.
Anyways, as I was saying, sorry, my phone annoys me. Medium settings should be just fine. If you want visuals and performance, the game looks pretty good on medium. It doesn't look as bad as low settings because there's at least shadows. But yeah, I think that the best settings at the moment, without knowing what's the fight going to be, is medium settings 720p. You're getting decent visuals, you're getting at least some shadows on your characters, and you're getting over 30 frames per second, at least in this part, that's what it looks like. But yeah, wish me luck. Once we get to the fighting, we're going to know the real deal. I expect it to be over 30 even when there's a lot of fighting. But yeah, even if you want a higher resolution, low settings just looks awful. I mean, there's no image, no shadows, no shadows. Partying like it's 2004, basically. Please don't crash. Okay. This is the moment of truth. Here we go. Alright. Upper 30s with a big effect on screen. I'm sorry there's somebody cleaning in the background. I'm not using RTX voice. If you cannot hear me, let me know in the chat. I'm trying to speak as loudly as possible so you can hear me. But yeah, somebody is just cleaning up the house in the background. Not the best time to stream. Okay. I saw it drop a couple times into the mid-20s. That's not good. Yeah, mid-20s. My advice here, yeah, this is not good. Instead of using low settings, I recommend right now 720p dynamic resolution targeting 30 frames per second. So 30 FPS dynamic. Yeah, that should be it. This should be the, unfortunately, the best settings for the 750 Ti. The 750 Ti. I wish. The 1050 Ti. But yeah, is it working offline? As far as I know, this is not working offline. It kicked me out to the main menu when I was playing the game, when I tried to disconnect the internet. So yeah, anyways, as I was saying, 720p medium with 30 frames per second dynamic resolution should be the best settings for this graphics card. If you do 900p lowest settings, you're going to get basically the same numbers as this, but without shadows, without reflections, without most of the good stuff. So if you want the game to look decent, these are my recommended settings. So yeah, I don't have a lot more time to stream. So I'm going to swap to the 1650 Super now. Hopefully we see much better numbers than this. But yeah, this is what it is. Sorry 1050 Ti users, this is what we have at the moment. 720p dynamic resolution, medium settings. But hey, better than nothing, I guess. Hopefully they fix this eventually. But I'm not expecting it to change that much, if I'm honest. Anyways, let's now jump to the 1650 Super. So I'm going to turn off the PC and swap graphics cards. Give me 1 second, guys. Alright guys, I'm back. Sorry about the background noise, nothing I can do about it. So now I swap to the 1650 Super. So if you want to see how the 1050 Ti and the RX 570 run the game, just rewind the video. I first tested the 570, then the 1050 Ti. So yeah. That's what you should expect. So let's do first 1080p medium settings, since that's what the 570 needed for basically 30 frames per second without dynamic resolution. Of course, who wants that? Nobody. Okay, yeah, perfect timing. So we're now back into the desktop with our magnificent Crisis background, and we're going to keep the fan curve the same, and okay, yeah, that should do. Let's now launch the game. Again, I'm going to do 1080p medium first, then I'm going to swap to high settings if we get over 30 frames per second. I'm not sure what numbers we're going to get here, but yeah. Anyways, so since the game likes to crash a lot when I'm changing settings, I'm going to change settings in the launcher basically. So 1080p without dynamic resolution, exclusive full screen. We select medium settings. Let's start with high settings, because why not? I have high hopes for this one. So we're going to keep it like this. High settings, high textures, anisotropic filtering, no motion blur, and that should be it. So let's jump right into the game. If it's not 30 frames per second, well, I know it's going to be medium settings, so let's start up with high settings so we can make it worse very quickly. In case I missed it, and in case it was missed, NVIDIA encoded is a separate chip on the video card. It was designed for 1080p. Some setups X264 may be better pending circumstances. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have an NVIDIA GPU, honestly, with the new NVIDIA encoder, the one of the 16 series cards and the RTX cards, I mean, considering the difference in CPU usage and the quality, I see no reason not to use the NVIDIA encoder. Personal preference, but I know what you're talking about, yeah. In some cases, you might want to use X264, especially if you're using a separate computer. But I mean, it's not necessarily 1080p. I'm streaming right now 1440p native, and I'm using a 1650 non-super on the NVIDIA encoder. Okay, so this menu runs pretty good so far. So hopefully it runs like it should, which means 30 frames, hopefully. Don't get excited. We'll see once the fighting starts, as usual. So I'm going to select the Hulk. Thank you, sir. And we'll launch the mission. ¿Dónde aprendiste inglés? Fui a clases de inglés en la escuela, después en el liceo, en secundaria, perdón. Y después di examen internacional, básicamente. Y practiqué por mi cuenta, no es solo dar examen, hay que practicar, hay que meterle horas.
It should lead you to the bunker.
Hi Santiago, I wish you a great stream. Thank you, Vladimir. Thank you very much. Sí, soy uruguayo. I'm from Uruguay.
Find out what. On it.
Alright, let's go. Yeah, come on.
Keep an eye on him.
Alright, so, whoa. I'm getting 40, okay, upper 30s, doing nothing. That's great, because that's what I was getting on the 1050 Ti on 720p low settings, medium settings. So it's probably going to drop into the upper 20s on high settings. But man, the game looks so much better.
Up there. It's
So much better than low settings. It's ridiculous.
There is an elite AIM unit near you. Defeat them, and you may gain something useful.
And I think I'm dropping some frames.
Look for a chest containing special resources nearby.
I think it was just, yeah, it was just my brain. I'm not missing any frames, apparently.
If you're curious, there should be an external locking.
Why is this game so hard to run? Because it's a new game. That's the excuse. I mean, the game looks very good, don't get me wrong, but on low settings it doesn't run that much better, and it looks so much worse. That is kind of ridiculous. Okay, beautiful. Let's get to the fighting.
Miss Khan, the shield signal is being
Okay, 30 frames. Please don't drop below 30, please.
close to the node
Please.
and disable the disruption.
Here we go. Moment of truth. Okay, 28. Still drop below 30. With dynamic resolution, this should be completely doable. Okay, not bad. Not that bad. It's running better than the 570. The 570 was getting these numbers, but on medium settings. So there's definitely an improvement on this one. But yeah, it's still dropping below 30 when there are effects on screen. Yeah. Yeah, medium settings should be the way to go. With medium settings, it's probably not going to drop below 30. So let's try that. Medium settings. High looks good, but medium still looks decent enough. So let's try that. Medium settings. 16 times anisotropic filtering. High textures. And I don't like the motion blur in this game, personal preference. It destroys the visuals. So now we're doing 1080p medium, and we just got like 5 frames per second. Okay, fair enough. And it's still dropping below 30. Okay.
I'm working on
Okay, okay.
the signal. Just stay within
So probably dynamic resolution is the way to go on this one. Still, I'm not dropping as hard as on high, so at least that's some good news. On high I was dropping into 28 more often. Let's see once more effects show up. Alright. Yeah, I think medium settings on this one is the way to go on 1080p. After this I'm going to try something different. By something different I mean 720p medium to see if we can get 60 frames. But yeah, this is not bad. I think this should be the best settings for this one. Medium settings, 1080p. The game looks good, performs decently enough. With a controller, it's not a bad playing game. Bad playing, I mean, it's playable. But again, when there's a lot of effects, the GPU suffers quite a bit, Okay, I failed, perfect, so I can repeat the same part, which I was looking for. But yeah. 5 FPS when he was at 30 FPS is a big deal. Yeah, true. That's very true. I mean, this is just 5 extra FPS. But yeah, that's the difference between 27 and 32 FPS. That's crazy, if you look at it that way. But yeah, Red Dead 2 runs better? Yeah, I think so. Crazy. Red Dead 2 runs better than this.
The shield signal is being blocked by a local AIM security node. I'll need you to get me close to the node so I can disable the
Yeah, I mean, it drops into the upper 20s, but not for long. Okay, I don't have a lot of time, so let's swap to 720. Let's see if we can get 60, probably not consistently. But yeah, so we select 60 Hertz. Please don't crash, please, please don't. Alright. Okay, so this is 720p medium. Alright, let's get back into the game now. Okay, we're getting similar numbers to the 570, which is interesting. I mean interesting because this was faster than the 570 on 1080p. Now that there's effects on screen and stuff happening, I mean it's similar to the 570 in a way that on medium settings, on that one I was getting 50 to 60 and it was dropping into the 40s when a lot of effects were showing up. So yeah, AMD is competing very well on this one. Probably the 580 is going to be faster than this one, in this case. Is VSync turned on? No, it's disabled. No VSync. VSync, I never turn it on, but if I do, I'll let you know in the description. In the live streams, I never ever enable VSync unless you guys ask for it.
Stay within proximity of the security node.
But yeah, 60 frames on this one doesn't seem to be possible. Maybe with dynamic resolution. 1 second, guys. Please, game, don't crash. With dynamic res. After this, I'm ending the live stream. Don't have more time. But yeah, this is the last thing I'm testing. 720p, medium settings, dynamic resolution. And I'm leaving because life sometimes it gets in the way. Alright, dynamic resolution, it works, but it's very clear that we're below 720p, very clear. I mean, I'm on a 4K display, so that doesn't help out in the slightest. But yeah, you'll notice that it's below 720, but at least you can do 60 frames. It's using half the CPU. So yeah, with a quad-core CPU, I don't expect these results at all. So if you have 4 cores, 60 frames shouldn't be possible, even with dynamic resolution. Mission failed, so I can try it again. Beautiful. I wanted to try it again. But yeah, as I was saying, with 4 cores, I don't expect this to be stable at 60 frames. I mean, again, look at this. I'm using a 6-core 12-thread CPU at 50%. At 60 frames per second. So if you're aiming for 60 and a 12-thread CPU is being used at the half, a 6-core CPU is going to be maxed out, which is unfortunate. So yeah, this is how you get 60 frames. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. The game needs a lot of work on the consoles and on PC, as you can see. Super hard to run at the moment. You need dynamic resolution for 60 frames, even at 720p on a mid to low end GPU. So, great. If you want to play this beta, link in the description. That's how you play it. If you want to support the channel, watch my videos. I don't ask anything else out of you. If you want to donate, that's highly appreciated, but it's not mandatory. But I highly appreciate it if you want to donate. But yeah, Thanks to you guys, this is all possible, so I'm leaving now. Thank you so much for watching this live stream. This will be published on my channel if you missed anything. But yeah, see you next time. Bye guys. Love you all. Nos vemos. Chao. Chao, chao. Bye bye.